Remember when R-rated comic book movies were extremely rare? Look how far we've come. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris, and welcome back to another video. So today I'm doing a tier list ranking of all the R-rated comic book movies that I've seen. There are a few out there that I haven't gotten to, like the Blade trilogy, for example. With the release of Joker Folie, or Joker 2, whatever the hell you want to call it, there are now, I believe, 13 or 14 comic book movies rated R that I've seen, so I'm ranking those right now. Before I get into this, though, be sure to hit that like button. It helps out more than you know, and subscribe and hit that notification bell to help me reach my goal of 150,000 subscribers here on the channel. And if you want extra content, from exclusive live Q&As to reaction videos or commentary tracks to movies and shows, including every episode of Stranger Things, you can find that over on my Patreon. Any support truly does mean the world. Without further ado, let's dive into this tier list. So the tiers I have are standard. We've got S tier, A tier, B tier, C tier, D tier, and F tier. And again, I've got 14 or so movies on here, ranging from Marvel to DC. And I had to sprinkle in a few movies like the Kingsman films, for example, just because I wanted to get at least 10 plus on here. So it's kind of cheating in a way, but we're just gonna run with it. Anyway, first up, we've got Kingsman: The Golden Circle. This is the second Kingsman film, and a movie that I think is overhated. I don't think I've talked about these movies on the channel a lot, but I'm going B tier with the second Kingsman film. I do give the edge to the first, but this movie gives us Country Road, Take Me Home. I just got chills thinking about that scene. Definitely has a weaker villain in the Julianne Moore character, but we get Pedro Pascal in here, Channing Tatum in the picture. This movie rules, and I'm really overdue for a rewatch of the Kingsman films. I haven't seen him since late 2021. We're approaching 3 years since I've watched him, and I remember this movie being damn near just as good as the first, but I still give the edge to the original. Moving on, we've got Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Arguably the worst title for a superhero film ever. Look, this movie, I'm gonna say, is C tier. I haven't thought about it much since I first watched it. Margot as Harley Quinn, outstanding casting. You could argue she's on the Mount Rushmore of most iconic comic book movie casting. She fits the role perfectly, right? However, the movie itself just doesn't do as much for me as time passes. I think one of the standouts, aside from Margot, is Ewan McGregor as Black Mask. He's a very menacing villain. He's having fun, and that's the most, outlandish I've seen Ewan McGregor in any role. I'm used to seeing him as Obi-Wan Kenobi, very, wisdom-filled, slow-talking character, and no, he's very energetic, over-the-top, borderline like a cokehead in this movie, so drastically different. The movie itself, it's fine, and it did come out like a month before the pandemic in theaters, so it kind of just got, swiped under the rug, and a lot of people forgot it existed, but that's Birds of Prey. Next, we've got Joker 2, the movie that I just reviewed recently. I'll link the review up above. I'm going to be honest with you. This is a D tier movie. I'm going to put it there right now. I don't think it's outright F, because I got to think of some of the other comic book movies we've seen recently, specifically this year, like Madam Web, and that's way worse than Joker 2. This is still a competently made movie. There are some gorgeous shots. Joaquin does his best. Lady Gaga does her best, and she does have moments to sing beautifully, which we know she's gonna crush, right? The movie itself, though, is so meandering from the jump, and it feels like a big fat nothing burger by the time the credits roll, which is ultimately very frustrating. You've got a follow-up to a billion-dollar film, and this is the final product. It really just, makes me ask a lot of questions about what was going on behind the scenes. Why did it take 5 years to pump out this movie? It's one of the more unnecessary sequels I can think of in recent years, and I can't believe thematically that it's basically just a rehash of the first film. Comes off as very shallow, and I just didn't care. I was bored to tears, arguably, and aside from a few standout scenes, the movie just doesn't have an identity. Does it want to be a courtroom drama? Does it want to be a musical? Fails to commit to anything, and ultimately really, really disappointed me. Next, we've got Deadpool 2. I'm going to put this at the top of B tier. Deadpool 2, my least favorite Deadpool film, but still a delightful watch. You've got Josh Brolin as Cable here, Domino in the picture, a lot of new characters in the X-Force, and in the middle of this film, we've got a very epic, shocking scene where AC/DC's Thunderstruck plays and we watch the X-Force get annihilated. Shocking, but I was here for it. It's a little overlong in my opinion, but the ending of the film, specifically like the post-credit scene, one of the most masterfully done things in retrospect, because at the time of release, Deadpool and Wolverine's script hadn't been conceived yet, and the way they were able to sort of intertwine the ending of Deadpool 2 into Deadpool and Wolverine, tie it in with the TVA, and make it all make sense, it's impressive stuff. So Deadpool 2, my least favorite of the trilogy, probably the one I will revisit the least moving forward, but still a solid watch. Next, we've got V for Vendetta, another one of those movies that's cheating in a way, because it's not like your conventional Marvel or DC film, but it's technically still a comic book movie. It's one that I've seen once back in 2020. I did a journey called 100 Movies I Missed, where I made a list of 100 films, and I said, hey, I'm going to watch these throughout this entire calendar year, and boom, I did it. I may do that again one day, who's to say? But look, when it comes to V for Vendetta, I'm going top of C tier, and that's, less me critiquing the film, more so I haven't seen it in so long, so my memory is a bit foggy. I recall liking the third act, but I do remember feeling a bit sort of uninterested for a good chunk of that runtime. That's one that I'll revisit one day and maybe appreciate more, but for now, it just didn't leave a lasting impression on me. Of the 100 movies I missed on that project, I don't remember it cracking into the top 50. It wasn't one of the more memorable ones. It was like a 3 or 3.5 out of 5. So C tier for the purposes of this tier list, I'm all right with. Now, next we have Deadpool and Wolverine, which you guys already know I'm putting in S tier, and that's probably going to piss some people off, but it's just my opinion. Love this movie. It's comparable to No Way Home in a sense that it's one of those Marvel event films that just has you leaving the theater absolutely giddy. I've rewatched the opening scene of this film now that it's out online multiple times this week alone. This film rules. Sean Levy injects it with this energy, and that's seen in the opening credits, but then it just doesn't slow down, in my opinion. I thought Hugh Jackman did a fantastic job as Wolverine. There's so much depth to this version of the character because the big hesitation with Deadpool and Wolverine was, are they going to massacre Logan? And they don't at all. They make a funny joke about it at the beginning of the film, but they respect the legacy of that film. And then we've got another Wolverine variant here, and Hugh Jackman comes out of retirement in this role and still hits a freaking grand slam. I mean, the man knows how to play this character. He didn't miss a beat here, and he gave us a new take on it. Obviously, I ate up all of the cameos / hidden supporting cast that was in this film, and it's got some insane action. This movie gave me everything I wanted. It also has tons of heart. I love the story we had for Deadpool himself and his journey as a character, feeling like he has meaning and purpose by the end of the film. It's great stuff. This is like a comic book movie to me. It's what it should be, and it's a damn fun time. It's tied as my favorite movie of the year right now. Next, we've got Batman v Superman. Not the theatrical cut, specifically the Ultimate Edition was rated R, and it didn't really, change anything. I think it was borderline gimmicky, to be frank, but I'll say BVS is C tier, probably like in the middle of what I've got there. As much as I do acknowledge that the Ultimate Edition made some improvements on the story and made it flow a bit better, I'm still so uninterested for major portions of this film. And aside from the Batman vs Superman fight itself, I find the third act to be just like flat out stupid. Everything involving Lex Luthor is cringeworthy. The Martha moment's been talked to death. It's just one of those Zack Snyder films that's like dimly lit. It doesn't really have a great plot. I'm not really interested in anything going on. We deserved a solo Batfleck film before this movie to really build him up as a character, and maybe even have Man of Steel 2, and then boom, we could have them meet up. Have the Wonder Woman movie before this even, it would have been so much better. They just tried to rush to match the MCU, and it really ended up biting them in the butt, and it looks like it could have a lasting impact on DC for the next decade, which is a damn shame. Next, we got Joker, the original film, which I rewatched leading up to Folie, and to be honest, it didn't hit the same. I'm gonna go top of B tier. Actually, behind Deadpool 2. I really was a little underwhelmed on this last watch. I really found the movie to be super slow moving. I think the final 30 minutes are a home run for Joker. That really carries so much of the weight, though. I'd say after the Zazie Beetz character reveal onward, the movie's great. Everything leading up to it is really slow moving. It's about how you end your movie. If you start slow but you end with a bang, that's what viewers remember most. However, it's like, okay, when are we going to start? When are we going to start? When are we going to start? It's like the Georgia football team this year, my favorite team. Slow starts in the first half, basically non-existent. They come out and ball in the second half, usually. So that's how I describe Joker right now. Next, we got Kingsman, the first film, which I'm going to go ahead and put in the A tier. Kingsman is a banger, and I don't know why I haven't gone back to it since the freaking winter of 2021. That's on me. Kingsman 1 and 2 is a hell of a double feature. I might have to toss those on soon. I know it's spooky season. I have this obligation to watch horror, I feel. But sometimes you just gotta, do what you want to do. You gotta have your cravings, right? And I'm craving a Kingsman double feature sometime soon. This first movie, it's a unique spy action film, and the church scene is cinema. I mean, there's not much else to say here. Taron Egerton crushes it. The whole cast does. It just has this contagious energy to it. It's such a cool movie. It's like got elements of Bond, elements of Mission Impossible, but it's cool as hell. There's no other way to describe it. Kingsman movies are badass. Next, we have James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, which I'm going to go ahead and put in A tier. I am going to put that above Kingsman. I'm really high on The Suicide Squad, guys. I forget the movie exists sometimes. That's not a shot at it. It's just like we get so many comic book films. It was like near the end of the DCEU, and it does feel disconnected from the rest of that cinematic universe in a good way. And it came out like where it was half on HBO Max, half in theaters, so it was a weird time of life. but I loved this movie, and I still think back fondly on it. The Peacemaker show enhanced this movie because you got Peacemaker, played by John Cena, who's given so much more depth in his own television show. So you go back and rewatch the Suicide Squad, and you can almost relate to this character a lot more, understand him more. But there are some out-of-this-world cool shots in this film. The helmet fight between Peacemaker and Rick Flag, man, is that well shot. Not only does this movie have James Gunn's signature humor, but it's got a lot of heart, which is a calling card of a James Gunn film. And the action rules too. This movie's awesome. It's got some shock value. It's bloody as hell. It's a win for DC, and to me, it's the best DCEU film that we ever got. That cinematic universe is dead. We are now in the era of the DCU, but the DCEU's king, to me, was always the Suicide Squad. Next, we've got Logan, which I am going to say is S tier. I'm going to put it at the top of this list. I haven't rewatched Logan in almost 7 years. It's one of those movies that I don't need to go back too much. Very familiar with it. I've seen it 2 or 3 times in my life. It's a very sad watch, but it is a masterful way to conclude Hugh Jackman's run as this particular version of Wolverine. It was a huge deal at the time this movie was rated R because we'd only seen a PG-13 Logan. And so when we got to go to sit down to the theater March of 2017 and we see, you know, Logan swearing, also just having these actual brutal kills on screen, it was so satisfying. Him and X-23's relationship is the heart and soul of this movie. There are some truly devastating moments here. It's a beautifully bittersweet send-off to the character, and the final berserker moment where Wolverine just goes full balls to the wall is insane. This movie rules. A lot of people say it's the best comic film of all time. I love it. It's just not one of my personal favorites because I don't go back to it as much, but I can't deny the greatness of Logan. Next, we have The King's Man, the third film. It's a prequel film in the Kingsman saga, whatever you want to call it. This one's like C tier, bordering D tier for me. In fact, I'm going to go at the back of C tier. It just wasn't really my jam. I like the cast of this film. Ralph Fiennes is in it. I just remember by the time the credits rolled, I was like, that was fine. It was a serviceable movie. It's like an airplane movie. C tier at best for me. I just want a third Kingsman film with Taron Egerton. Next, we have Zack Snyder's Justice League, which I'll say is probably top in D tier. You know, I think I gave this movie like 4 out of 5 when I first watched it. I don't know why. It's 4+ hours. The last hour are post-credit scenes leading to nothing. And yes, it's a much better movie than the theatrical cut. I'm not denying that. But I still find it to be overly long, and a lot of the characters still just don't really care for them. This is a movie promising a lot of things we're never going to see. I don't know why it exists. And rounding out this list, we've got Deadpool, the first one, which rules. I'm going to say Deadpool is going at the top of A tier for me. Love the movie. I mean, it's like a 4.5 out of 5, arguably a 5 out of 5 on some days. I've probably seen Deadpool the most out of any movie on this list. It's very rewatchable, fun. At the time, it was unlike any other comic book film we'd seen with the fourth wall breaks, and Ryan Reynolds was born to play this role. That first Deadpool movie always will have a special place in my heart. But that's my ranking of all the R-rated comic book films I've seen. Again, I haven't seen the Blade movies. There's a couple other big ones out there I haven't watched, but these are the ones that I personally have seen. So let me know in the comments down below your favorite R-rated comic book film, as well as where you would place them on these tiers. Hit that like button, subscribe to that notification bell. Stay tuned for more content coming very soon, and until next time, I'll see you guys later.